Now we're going to start on lesson number 9, and I still have my windows side by side. So remember, you can't have it in the maximum. It has to be in with the cell window. You need to have it where they have the two squares there. So that just gives you a floating window, they call it. And once you do that, if you click and drag with your mouse so that your cursor, watch how my arrow cursor hits the side, and as soon as I let go, it makes it exactly half of the screen size. That only works on PCs. It does not work on Macs. So it's a little fun trick. For the Macs, you can do it. You just have to manually move your window. So here we go. We're going to go into lesson number 9, and we're going to try and see the directions. I'm not seeing my little direction window, so I might have to make it big for a moment so I can see the direction window. And I'm going to click on the end to go down to the challenge. And now I'm going to reduce my screen so that I can see at the same time. Okay. And for the other window, I don't want to be in my recording screen. I want to be in my spreadsheets folder. And I'm just going to go to lesson number 9. So I've already done clicking on the example file and saving that to my Google Drive. So if you haven't done that yet, do that now. Just pause the video. And I'm just going to open mine. Notice my files are already renamed, so definitely make sure that you have them named. I do not want to see any copy of. So the first thing, so we've done that. So we've done the make a copy because we had directions earlier. Now it says to change the row height of all the rows to be smaller. So if you want to select every single row, do you see how there is a square here that is above all of the rows and to the left of all of the columns? If I click on that, it automatically selects every single row in my spreadsheet. So I'm just going to make them all the same size. I think that that's a little bit of an easier way to go. So now watch what happens. So it's rows I'm dealing with. So I move my cursor right in between, and it can be in between anyone. Do you notice each time I go between two rows that I get the double arrows? I can go down here. It doesn't matter. They're all selected. So if I click and I can drag up and I just decide, how tall I want them to be. So I think I like that height and I can let go. You can do the same thing for just a series of cells. So maybe I wanted my headers to be bigger than the data. So if that happens, then I can just click those two cells and maybe I want to make them a little bit larger. So I wait. So you notice when it had the hand, as we learned before, means move. So I don't want the hand. I need to switch my cursor until I get the up and down arrows, and then I drag down, and then so now my headers are a little bit bigger. And if I'm like, oh, well, I want this one to be a little bit smaller, I can click on a single row and make the change. So that's how you do it. If you want everything, click the square. If you want certain rows, then you just click and drag and select the rows that you want to change. Okay, so I've made them smaller. I've done that. I've accomplished something. Now it wants me to merge cells A1 to I1. So those are going to be, so I can click inside A1, and I'm right in the middle. I click and hold now, and I'm dragging right. I have to drag all the way over till I get to I. Don't want J, I just want I. So I let go, and all of those are selected. And the merges, actually I'm going to make this a bigger screen so that you can see. So the merge is right here, merge cells. And it's also going to be under the format menu too, I think. Yep. So there's merge cells under here. So it depends. If you think in terms of words, like, oh, what I'm doing right now is a formatting, then you can just look in the format menu. If you like looking at the pictures and you're like, yeah, that picture looks right, that icon looks pretty good, and also you can mouse over the icon, and that definitely says merge cells. So I can click there, and so it merges all of those cells together. So instead of having separate cells, it's all one big unit. So you can see that the Frontier Kids just went across all of those. So it looks much nicer than it did before. And when I click on the cell, do you see that see the blue is going around this whole big area? So that's how you can tell that I've merged it into one. So that was the first thing. So I'm going to click back. I guess we're going to go window to window. All right, so we've done that. We've merged. So now it wants us to insert a row below row 11 and type our first name in the first cell. So row 11, you click on the row, and there's a couple of ways. So it says it wants us to insert. So I see up here in the menu that there's an insert. So I could do it that way. Insert, and it says row above or row below. So I wanted it to be a row below. I click on that and then type my first name in the first box. So I'm going to type Beth. Now I could have right-clicked and it gives a shortcut menu and same options, insert one above, insert one below. It doesn't say row. It's one of what I have selected. So I obviously have the row selected because number 12 is there. But I don't need to do that. I just wanted to show you both ways. Let's go back at our list. Now it wants us to delete row 7. This row contains the name Beth. I'm sorry, not Beth. Ooh, Ben Mathis. Okay, so let's see. So poor Ben. Ben Mathis, we want to delete you. So we click on that. So we can either do a right click and we can say to delete row. Some people I noticed were just hitting, oh, I clicked it already. So let me hit the undo just so I can show you. The other menu that you can get it is if we do edit, it's under delete row here too. So there's two ways to do it. So some people were just deleting. If you have blank there, then that means you just hit your backspace button and you just delete it out of the fields, and you really needed to delete the whole row. So if you didn't do it right, go back and fix it. Now let's go back to our directions. We are trucking along. So now it wants us to insert a column between columns G and H, and it wants us to type total quantity as the column header. Okay. So this one, they're bridging what we've already done. We've already inserted a row. So now we're going to do a column. So it's going to be pretty much the same thing. So we can either go to the insert menu and we want a column to the right because it needs to be between G and H. So it needs to be to the right of G. So I can click that. The other option could have been, I could have right clicked and done that. Insert one to the right. I could have started on what was H and clicked to the left. So whatever you want to do, there's a few different options. And then it wants me to type total quantity. So I'm going to do total quantity. I'm just going to tab out of that field. Okay, now do you notice the problem? Look at that. It has cut off. It doesn't say, it doesn't fit. So these column widths are not the right size. So some people would try and resize the columns, just like we resize the rows. But there's something else that we can do. It's called wrap text, and that's what it wants us to do. So I'm going to show you the directions. So it said, select cells A2 to J2 and change them to wrap text and center align them. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to select the cell. So again, we click inside and we drag so that they highlight, and you can see that the 2 over here is highlighted. So it's we're only dealing with row 2, and look, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J are all highlighted. So this up here is the, nope, not the merge cell. We don't want merge. We want the text wrapping. So as I mouse over, so the text wrapping, we click here and see the arrow that goes around. We're going to click on that, and that's going to wrap the text. So that did the first part, but then it did not center them yet. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click the center button. So now everything's aligned in the center. So that looks very nice. Because one of the other things we're working on, file management, and we're also working on design. We want everything to look really great when we produce it. It's going to give us credibility. People are going to be impressed by our work. We like people to be impressed. And now it wants us to freeze the top 2 rows. So this is a little bit of a bizarre one. It's in the view menu. I always forget. You can see I went to the wrong one at first, and I've done this a lot. So I want to freeze the top 2 rows. And the good thing about a freeze is this. Imagine if this sheet was very, very, very long, and there were like 100 names on the list. When you scroll, watch what happens when it's frozen. Do you see that those first 2 rows are always staying at the top, which is pretty awesome. You can freeze other things too. If we go back to the freeze, you can also freeze some columns as well. So if I froze one column, we don't need to do that here, but let's say I wanted to always have the names on the side. Let's say I added more types of cookies. Maybe we have 50 different types of cookies. So I could freeze, as well as the top 2, I could also freeze, which you don't need to do for this direction, but I just want to show you. Oh, it won't let me freeze because of the merged cell. Okay, that's why. Because we merged, we made the title a merged cell, it won't let me freeze. But if we froze that, it would work the exact same way, that we could scroll and the names would always appear on the side. So that's just what the freeze does. It's super convenient when there's lots of data for smaller tables, you won't notice a difference and you won't need to do it. So we freeze it, and then when you're finished, it says your spreadsheet should look something like this. And I can make mine smaller, but I know that mine looks like that. We have the name over here, the numbers are at the bottom, and we have the total quantity. Mine looks exactly like that. So now we are done with lesson number 9. We are rocking and rolling.